Welcome to Peter and Rafi's football show. We're on STV Glasgow and STV Edinburgh. The main talking points tonight: Scott Allan says he's happy to wait for his turn at Celtic. Dundee United slashed their prices for the weekend game as a mark of respect to Ralph Milne. Kenny McLean has warned Celtic the Dons will get stronger as the season progresses. And Jocky remembered. We'll have a couple of videos for you to look at tonight, just as the build-up for our special tribute programme tomorrow evening, the Peter and Rafi football show special tribute. Alan Ruff will be here with a couple of special guests who knew Jock very well indeed. We'll tell you more about that later on in the programme. Today, Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. Our boot-room guest is Des McKeown. Delighted to have you guys alongside us. So Scott Allan says he's happy to bide his time. There will be European games, Rafi, and there's also the domestic front, so there's a place there for him at some stage.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. You know, he'll be enjoying everything that's happening at Celtic just now. He'll be enjoying the training, he'll be enjoying mixing with the players for the first team just to get an experience of what it's all about, and his time will come, and I think a lot of the fans will be interested in how he does. You know, he's the kind of player that Celtic like in their side. And I'm sure he'll add something to the team. OK,
let me suggest something bold to you, Des McKeown. I think they should build a team around him.
That's bold, Peter, but I can understand why. I think he's a type of player that you would want to accommodate in your side because he has a certain skill set that not many players do have. He can see a pass, he can execute the pass, he's comfortable in possession. I think he's a terrific young player. And I said at the time that my one concern for Scott Allan would be that he would need to play. And sure, he's saying that he's willing to wait, but I'm telling you right now, I'm 100% sure he's desperate to play every game. He'll want to get that run of games so that he can build that understanding with the players he's playing alongside. I think in and out doesn't really suit his style because I think he's missed enough football over the last 2 or 3 years, you know, other than his season at Hibs. He's got time to make up, and I think he'll want to do it on the pitch sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think one of the things he'll have to do is get into the work rate ethic. You know, he's got all the skill in the world, but when you go to a team like Celtic, you've got to be part of the team. You can't be an individual.
I would argue that, Rafi. I would say that, similar to what you're saying, I think, Peter, I would have, if you've got Scott Brown, Beaton, and whoever else in that midfield area, I think you can allow Scott Allan to cheat a little in the game. I think, particularly in Scottish football, let's face it, you know, Celtic should be leaps ahead of everybody. Whether they will be, obviously, we'll wait and see in due course. But I think Scott Allan, you could say, would be a luxury player that you just say, see, almost, and I don't mean to draw the comparison to Moravchik, but almost see, when we've got the ball, you become alive. See, without it, let us do your work.
Yeah, I'm only going on the evidence of Lee Griffiths. Lee Griffiths left Hibs, the best player in Scotland, and went to Celtic and never got picked for whatever reason, and one of these reasons was work rate. I'm sure Gordon Strachan said his just work rate wasn't good enough to fit into the team. Managers are different, I know what you're saying. Some managers allow that player, some managers don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting times. Aberdeen against Celtic at the weekend, of course. Just as the build-up now, they start to crank it up, Des. Kenny McLean says the Dons will progress even more as the season goes on. Well, every team hopes that they'll progress. Have they got enough in their armoury to really, trouble Celtic?
I think they will be the closest to Celtic again, Peter. I think this is as good a season for them to have a go as any. I think they've performed well in the transfer window. I think Andrew Shinnie arguably is the best left back in Scotland. I think he's a terrific player. I think he's added to it. The goalkeeper appears to be decent, and they've added 1 or 2 utility players as well. That, you know, Paul Quinn can come in and do a job. And I think they've still to see the best out of Kenny McLean. You know, Kenny came in last transfer window, January, and I think he's still not finding his feet, but he started the season well in terms of goals. So from that perspective, I think Aberdeen do have a chance this season, because I think when you also look at Celtic have got a new central defensive partnership. No matter who plays there, it's a new partnership. I think they've got the Europa League to contend with, so players will be coming in and out. Will the consistency be there? So I do think Aberdeen will cause Celtic a problem. Will they ultimately cause them enough problems to win the league? I don't think so. But this is a season that they could really give it a go.
Yeah, I think the next month as well, Rafi, will give us an insight into Hearts, how they've bounced back from the Hamilton defeat, you know, and the way they take things on, because there will be a few other learning curves in this season for them.
Yeah, there will. There'll be important games coming up. They've done very well. I think if we look at their games, a lot of them have won by the odd goal. They will come up against better sides, there's no doubt about that, and they will be tested. They've just been beaten. Everybody always looks for what kind of reaction. I'm sure there will be a reaction. I think it was a one-off, that game. I think they were winning quite comfortably until somebody got sent off. But no, they've got a good season ahead of them. The Aberdeen one, I would say, I would forget about. They'll get better. I would look at this weekend. You know, Celtic took points off them every point last year. If they were to go into the game this weekend, beat Celtic, then it's all about, you know, the rest of the season. Then they will have the confidence to get better. If they were another setback this weekend, another defeat, that could set them back.
Yep. Just briefly before we see our first Jock Stein tribute video, Rafi, Gordon Strachan, I'm led to believe the SFA don't have any problems with, there's no issue with giving him a new contract. I think that will be forthcoming.
No, I don't think there should be either. You know, I think what he's done since he went in there, he's got everybody behind the team again. It was beginning to go away in a wee bit. I know people were stopping to go to Scotland games, but I think they're back now, and we're playing reasonable football.
OK, more from Rafi and Des McKeown shortly. Tomorrow night we've got a special Jock Stein tribute programme. Hopefully you can join us for that at 6:30 on STV Edinburgh and STV Glasgow, when we can talk about some of these wonderful memories.
The thing I remember vividly was in the bus when the boss, Jock Stein, was standing with Bill Shankly, and that made it so exciting. Two Scotsmen, and Bill's turned round and says to the boss, "You're immortal, John, you're immortal." I'll never ever forget that.
Jock Stein will be forever associated with Celtic Football Club, primarily for his achievements as a manager. But he's one of those players who can boast a league and cup double for Celtic as a player in 1954, which ended a particularly barren spell. He would be the first to admit he wasn't the most gifted of footballers, but he managed to carve out a career which eventually would take him on a path to glory with Celtic. Jock Stein came from Burnbank in Hamilton, and like so many other men in the area, he seemed destined for a career in the mines. But football was his salvation. From Blantyre, Victoria, he got a move to Albion Rovers and eventually a full-time contract with Llanelli in Wales. But the princely sum of £1,200 brought him back here to Celtic, and from there, his career would bring success that even some of the most ardent Celtic fans couldn't dream of.
I think privately you must be very pleased with the progress that the new young players have made in the side.
The younger fellas have come in, have proved that they're good players and all they need is experience. Some games are as good as the old team was, and some games they drop a bit, but this can only come back by playing together and gaining experience.
Well, headed in a glorious goal. Oh, excellently taken by Jimmy Johnson.
Jock Stein's playing career was curtailed by injury. In 1957, he was offered the chance to coach the reserves here at Celtic Park. 3 years later, Dunfermline would offer him his first full-time post as manager. He delivered the Fife club a Scottish Cup, ironically defeating Celtic by 2-0. Hibernian were the next club to spot his potential, and after a short but successful position there, Celtic decided it was time to bring one of their former players back home. In March 1965, Jock Stein became the first Protestant manager of Celtic. He decided at that point that he must be allowed to pick the team in its entirety. A couple of months later, his team won the Scottish Cup by defeating Dunfermline by 3-2, with Billy McNeill scoring the winning goal. It started a period of dominance and unrivalled success. 10 league titles, 8 Scottish Cups, 6 League Cups, and of course, the ultimate, the European Cup.
7 minutes from time came the winning goal. Chalmers deflected Murdoch's shot past Sati.
Both these clubs at that time were at the height of their brilliance. Both of them, they had their way of, style of playing in Italy. Celtic, Jock had his, which was entertainment first and foremost. And the best team won because they played a system that everybody loved, and that was football at the highest.
Welcome back to Peter and Rafi's Football Show. Just before the break, there was a little tribute there to Jock Stein. Of course, we'll hear more from Jock Stein tomorrow night. The tribute from Alan Rough, Jim Craig, Lisbon Lion, and Archie Macpherson, who has written 2 books about the great man. Rafi, of course, you played under him at international level.
Yeah, like all great managers, he was way ahead of his time. There's no doubt about that. You know, tactically and man management, he was big on that. And when you got picked for a Scotland squad and you went along there, you knew there was serious business to contend with. But he knew how to relax you as well. He filled your day. Many times I started taking bowls up, you know, rather than sitting having a cup of tea and just trying to kill the day. He knew what to do, and as I said in the chat there, his tactics were second to none. Absolutely unbelievable. He was very thorough in everything that he did, and just a pleasure to play with.
Yep, a lot to celebrate about the great man, and of course it all ended on that fateful night. It's the 10th of September, 30 years ago.
The Scottish hero, bedlam all around us, but what a night for Scotland. Jock Stein being carried inside. Jock Stein has collapsed, it appears, on the trackside.
It's that night in Cardiff, getting that vital result that really laid the path open for qualification for 86. It's just such a huge tragedy that for Scotland to qualify, it would ultimately mean the death of Jock Stein. But it was such an emotional roller coaster of a ride if you listen to any of the players involved in that particular game. But at the end of the day, I think part of Jock Stein's legacy is the fact that, you know, that twice he was able to help guide Scotland to a major World Cup finals.
If his predecessor, Ali MacLeod, had the country in a frenzy to qualify for finals, Jock very much had a more pragmatic approach to it. He didn't want to get everybody overexcited. He wanted, yes, to qualify, but have a more realistic approach to it.
Yeah, I think Jock Stein was very much aware of actually what achievement it was just to qualify for World Cup finals. After really the 78 World Cup in Argentina, where the whole nation seemed to be caught in a frenzy regarding the chances of Scotland really doing well in that competition, led by a charismatic manager, I think Jock Stein really realised more than anything else that actually the main thing was to qualify and then hopefully really try and progress as a team when you got to the finals. So he kind of, I think, got the country together behind the national team, but he made sure that we had more of probably a realistic understanding of what the team could do when we got to these finals.
Is it fair to say, when you consider the achievements, Stein was very much the pioneer?
Yes, I would say that because Jock Stein is one of the earlier managers of the kind of the great four, as we refer to them, there's Alec Ferguson, Jock Stein, Sir Matt Busby and Bill Shankly. I think that Stein and Sir Matt Busby are probably two of the greats in terms of the absolute success that they delivered for their respective club sides. But I think if you ask Sir Alec Ferguson, and even players like Graham Souness as well, who obviously was an important player for Scotland under Jock Stein as well, you ask them about Stein's influence on them but also on the wider game, and you really start to understand just how important, how great a manager Jock Stein really was.
Behind any great manager there has to be great players, and when you look at so many of the players that are in the Scottish Football Hall of Fame, you can see exactly the top quality that we had that made the nation consider World Cup qualification a must. We took it for granted. You had Danny McGrain, Joe Jordan, who played in 3 World Cup campaigns, Asa Hartford, of course Alex McLeish, Davy Cooper, and the great Kenny Dalglish. Just a few of the names etched into the history of Scottish football. But above all that, there has to be a good manager. You wonder what he would have achieved had he been able to get there to Mexico in 1986.
Well, we have a good chance. We've started off 2 points, and our goal difference is tremendous. Now, that's a big difference with the Spanish goal difference. So we're in good position. We couldn't want better. 2 games at home, we've won the 2 of them, so we've got a chance. And that team has just got better and better and better, and maybe a bit to come yet.
Jock remembered, tomorrow night, 6:30, STV Edinburgh, STV Glasgow. Rafi will be joined in the studio with Archie McPherson and Lisbon line Jim Craig. We'd love you to catch it, STV Edinburgh and STV Glasgow. Of course, Rafi, memories of that night in '85 in Cardiff. It took us on to a playoff against Australia. Was that one of the lowest and saddest points in your playing career?
Not only my career, but I think every player that was in that dressing room. When the news started to filter through, obviously on the park we were on a high, but as we came into the dressing room, we'd heard the circumstances of what had happened, and as you said, players that have been all over the world playing football were absolutely distraught with what was beginning to happen before us, and we just sat there in the dressing room for an hour, and I don't think anybody spoke at all. We just sat there waiting in the news, hoping it would be good news. Unfortunately it wasn't, but yeah, horrible hour.
I'm not for a minute suggesting that he would have done any better than Sir Alex Ferguson in Mexico in '86. You wonder if maybe he'd have, maybe taken the country in a different direction in each of those games, Des.
I suppose that's one of the great questions, Peter, and sadly we're discussing it because Jock sadly passed away on that night in Cardiff. But yeah, it's one of those that, I'm sure the guys who played under him would have seen, stark differences between Steen's methodology and Fergie's methodology. And from that perspective, the results might have changed slightly differently. We might have got out of the group stages for the first time. But I think over the piece, I think Jock Stein should just be remembered for the genius that he was as a man manager and indeed a tactician. And I think you just need to look. I was too young to really remember his impact at Celtic. I remember him, as a Scotland manager. But I think you just see some of these quotations, and they're there for a lifetime. They'll go on long before any of us are around. Some of these quotes regarding football. Yeah.
Do you think it would have been different, Rafi?
I think it would have been different on the park and off the park. And I know when I say off the park he had every minute detail. Things like when you would go into a hotel, the players would book in first, everybody else would wait. You were at the front of the bus, you weren't at the back of the bus. Your meal times, if it was 6 o'clock, you better be there at 6 o'clock.
The plane wouldn't have been later.
The plane wouldn't have been late. And I tell you,
they went to the stadium in time.
I was waiting for Des to pick that one up there. I knew he was going to fight.
One of the first things were in training in the morning, he would say to you at night, go to your bed, we're training at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, the bus will be at the door at 9 o'clock. If you're not on the bus, you'll be making your own way at the training, and it wouldn't be the first time footballers been footballers got their clocks mixed up or whatever, and that bus was gone. You had to find your way at that training.
Yeah, he must have been one shrewd man as well to try and keep track of so many of the players who couldn't just go straight to their bed and concentrate on the game the next day, but that's for Rafi's next book. I just wish he'd bring it out now. It'd be a great read.
The Steeniers.
Yeah. Listen, another thing I was going to say to you, talking of great books, I read in the papers this morning, Ali McCoist is obviously hoping to sort out the problem with the gardening leave with Dave King when he comes over. When Ali writes the book, I think it'll need to be delivered in a security van. It should be red hot if he ever does decide to write one.
Yeah, he was certainly there for day one. There's no doubt about that. He was practically running the club himself at one stage. So yes, there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and certainly he would know more than anybody else.
Yep, and I know he wants to get back into the game. It could take a little while once he gets the Rangers thing sorted out, but he's eager to get back involved again, Des.
Yeah, well, it's a game he's been involved in all his life, you know, so I can understand why he would want to get back involved. He's had that little bit of a period since last December that he's been out of the game. If he can get his settlement agreement obviously done and dusted, then he's open to offers.
Well done to Dundee United. Just before we go, they've slashed the prices, £5 for adults, concessions, I think I'm just checking, right at £1. Brilliant. United fans, wear as much tangerine as you possibly can and get in there for the game this weekend and pay your respects to Ralph Milne, who sadly passed away. There'll be a minute's silence prior to it, and in the 4th minute, what a great idea, a minute's applause to commemorate Ralph's fantastic goal in that match against Dundee back in May 1983 that sealed the title for Jim McLean's side. All that remains for me to say to you is join us tomorrow night if you can. Rafi, Archie McPherson and Lisbon Lion Jim Craig will join us in a special tribute to Jock Stein on the 30th anniversary of his sad passing. Des McKeown, thank you very much for joining us tonight. From Rafi and myself, STV Glasgow, STV Edinburgh, 6:30 tomorrow.